Welcome to Inside British Royals. This is your exclusive look inside the world's most famous family. We are exploring the scandals, secrets, and power plays that define the modern monarchy. If you are new here, please do well to hit that subscribe button for more updates. On March 9th, 2026, King Charles III delivered his annual Commonwealth Day message. It was a speech meant for 2.7 billion people, a full third of the planet's population, broadcast from the heart of London. But in a surprising break with tradition, the British public couldn't watch it live on the BBC. Instead, the national broadcaster aired a program about moving to the countryside. That single programming decision begs an immediate, powerful question. What was in that message that was deemed less important than a property show? While the king spoke of unity to a global family of 56 nations, the cameras at home were pointedly turned away. The real story isn't just what the king said. It's the context he said it in and the subtle signals hidden just beneath the diplomatic surface. Today, we're going to decode the king's 2026 Commonwealth Day message, breaking down the carefully chosen words and the calculated omissions to reveal what he's really telling the world about global conflict, climate change, and the future of the Commonwealth itself. Every year, the Commonwealth Day service at Westminster Abbey is a grand affair, and 2026 was no different. The Abbey was packed with 1,800 guests, from high commissioners and global dignitaries to schoolchildren. King Charles and Queen Camilla were there, joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales, a clear visual statement of dynastic stability. The service itself was a vibrant spectacle designed to celebrate the Commonwealth's diversity. We saw performances from the Commonwealth Symphony Orchestra, the soulful sounds of Birmingham artists Indigo Marshall and Tarju Lusano, and a unique fusion of Bollywood and ballet. On the surface, it's a celebration of culture, a meeting of friends. But the Commonwealth Day message is one of the most important diplomatic tools the monarch can use. It's a speech where every single word is weighed, negotiated, and polished. This isn't an off-the-cuff chat. It's a strategic communication. The king himself framed the moment as a time of great challenge and great possibility. That phrase alone is our first clue. It's the classic political setup: acknowledge the bad news, but pivot immediately to the good. The challenge is what the world is feeling. The possibility is what the king is selling. And to understand what he truly meant, we have to start by decoding that first, ominous word: challenge. In a pre-released clip, the palace noted the king would speak of communities facing increasing pressures of conflict. Now, notice the language. He doesn't say war. There's no mention of Ukraine, no mention of Sudan, and he certainly doesn't touch the recent escalations involving the US, Israel, and Iran. He uses the word conflict. And that's not an accident. It's a masterclass in monarchical diplomacy. As head of the Commonwealth, the king can't be seen taking sides in political disputes, especially when member nations have different allegiances or economic ties. Naming a specific conflict risks alienating a partner. The word conflict acts as a linguistic umbrella, allowing him to acknowledge the global atmosphere of anxiety without getting his hands dirty. It lets every nation stand together, nodding in agreement that things are, indeed, difficult. But the message goes deeper. By keeping it general, he's reinforcing the fundamental purpose of the Commonwealth itself. It was born from the ashes of empire, rebranded as a voluntary association of equals. Its primary job, at least in theory, is to be a network for peace and cooperation. When the king talks about conflict, he is subtly reminding the 56 leaders listening that this very network is their best tool to de-escalate it. He isn't ordering them to solve the world's wars. He's reminding them they belong to a club designed to prevent them. This message is being sent at a time of profound global fragmentation. Alliances are shifting, and the post-World War II order is cracking. In this environment, the king's message is a quiet claim that the Commonwealth, often dismissed as a historical relic, has a renewed purpose. He's framing it not as a talking shop, but as a vital force for good in a world that desperately needs one. He's telling the world that while superpowers posture and draw new battle lines, the Commonwealth represents a different path. one of dialogue and shared values. It's an ambitious claim and a deeply political one, all hidden beneath a veneer of diplomatic pleasantry. The challenge is conflict. The possibility he's offering is that the Commonwealth is the solution. If the section on conflict was an exercise in restraint, the king's words on the environment were anything but. For over 50 years, Charles has been one of the world's most prominent environmental voices. We saw him championing organic farming when it was seen as eccentric and warning about plastic pollution long before it was a mainstream issue. Many saw it as a quirky hobby for a prince. We're now seeing that it was never a hobby. It was an apprenticeship. In his 2026 message, the king wove themes of planetary care and restorative sustainability throughout his entire address. These aren't just buzzwords. This is King Charles embedding his lifelong crusade into the very fabric of his reign and, by extension, into the mission of the modern Commonwealth. He's moving his signature issue from the margins right into the mainstream. When he speaks of climate change, he's not just another world leader reading from a script. He's speaking with the authority of someone who has been making these arguments for half a century. The message is clear. Under his leadership, the environment won't be an issue for the Commonwealth. It will be the issue. It's the central organizing principle around which he believes the 56 nations can unite. Crucially, he connects this to the Commonwealth's greatest asset, its youth. Young people make up 2/3 of the entire Commonwealth population. This is a staggering demographic reality. When the king talks about restoring harmony between humanity and nature, he isn't just speaking to the presidents and prime ministers. He's speaking directly to the hundreds of millions of young people across Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, and the Pacific who will inherit a world shaped by the climate decisions made today. He's effectively making a pact with that generation. He's telling them that he, the monarch of the oldest institution in the room, is on their side. He's showing them he understands that, as he put it, climate change is not an abstract or distant threat, but a lived reality. This language recasts the Commonwealth. It's no longer just about history. The king is trying to reforge it into a generational alliance, a green superpower united not by a shared past, but by the shared challenge of securing a future. It's a radical reframing, and it's easily the most personal part of his message. We are just getting to the core of how the king plans to actually execute this vision, and it involves rethinking the Commonwealth's entire power structure. This is where the message gets practical. If you're finding this analysis valuable, now would be a perfect time to subscribe for more content that goes beyond the headlines. And let me know in the comments, do you think the king's focus on the environment is his greatest strength or a distraction from other pressing issues? I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think. The official theme for the next big Commonwealth meeting is accelerating partnerships and investment for a prosperous Commonwealth. It sounds a bit dry and bureaucratic, but in his speech, the king translated that theme into something far more revolutionary. He spoke of working together and the need for shared prosperity. To get why this is so significant, you have to understand the history. The Commonwealth has always struggled with the ghost of the British Empire, facing accusations of being a neo-colonial project, a way for Britain to maintain influence after the flags came down. King Charles knows this. His language is deliberately designed to exorcise that ghost. Phrases like working together and partnerships are not accidental. They are the language of a network, not a hierarchy. He's signaling a definitive break from the old model of London as the center and the other nations as spokes on a wheel. This is the blueprint for a truly post-colonial Commonwealth. It's a vision where economic power and innovation flow between all 56 members, not just toward the UK. He's suggesting a future where a tech startup in Nairobi can partner with a finance firm in Singapore, and a renewable energy project in Jamaica can be funded by Canadian investment, all within a trusted Commonwealth framework. The service at Westminster Abbey was a living performance of this idea. It wasn't just a series of disconnected acts. It was a curated statement. You had Odi Mabuse, the celebrated South African dancer, delivering a reflection. You had the Melodian Steel Orchestra, a legendary group from the heart of South London's Caribbean community, their music filling the ancient English abbey. Most telling of all was the performance that fused Bollywood and classical ballet. This wasn't just multicultural entertainment. It was a perfect metaphor for the king's vision. Two distinct, proud traditions coming together not to create a diluted hybrid, but something new, dynamic, and equal. By platforming these artists, the king was showing, not just telling. He was demonstrating that the culture, creativity, and energy of the modern Commonwealth flows in all directions. It's a message that says the days of a single, dominant culture are over. The future is a network. It's his answer to the charge of irrelevance, to remake the Commonwealth as an indispensable economic and cultural network for a globalized world. This brings us back to the elephant in the room, or rather, the property show in the room. If the king's message was so forward-looking, so packed with strategic vision for a network of 2.7 billion people, why did the BBC, the UK's state broadcaster, decide to scrap its live coverage in a major break from tradition? The official line points to funding challenges and budget cuts. And while that may be part of the story, it's almost certainly not the whole story. The decision itself is a message, one that stands in stark, and perhaps embarrassing, contrast to the king's global ambitions. Think about what this signals. For decades, Commonwealth Day was considered a major national event, a moment for Britain to celebrate its role at the center of a global family. To replace it with escape to the country is a profound statement of shifting priorities. It suggests a deep and growing apathy within the British establishment toward the Commonwealth itself. On one hand, you have King Charles promoting a vision of a globally connected Britain, with the Commonwealth as its primary vehicle for soft power. He sees it as Britain's future. On the other, you have the national broadcaster essentially saying, "We don't think the British public is interested." This creates a fascinating tension. The king is trying to sell a story of global Britain, deeply engaged and networked. But the BBC's decision suggests a nation that is perhaps becoming more insular, more focused on domestic issues, and less concerned with its post-imperial family. The king's speech was an outward-looking appeal to embrace the world. The BBC's programming choice was an inward-looking shrug. So while the king delivered a carefully constructed message of renewal to the world, the lack of a live broadcast at home sent an entirely different, and perhaps more honest, message that for many in Britain, the Commonwealth may no longer be a priority. The king is the head of the Commonwealth, but the BBC's decision raises the uncomfortable question of whether the heart of his kingdom is still in it. So, when we piece it all together, what was the real message of Commonwealth Day 2026? Stripped of the pageantry, it was a strategic communication from a new monarch trying to define his reign. On one level, it was a masterclass in global diplomacy, acknowledging the world's anxieties about conflict while positioning the Commonwealth as a network for peace. At the same time, it was the elevation of a personal passion into a political doctrine. King Charles has placed the climate crisis at the very center of the Commonwealth's mission, attempting to unite a third of humanity in a generational struggle for survival. And woven through it all was a blueprint for a modern, equitable future, a vision for a post-colonial network built on mutual respect, not the hierarchies of the past. And finally, layered over all of this was the unintended, and perhaps most poignant message of all, delivered not by the king, but by the empty airwaves on the BBC. It was a message of a potential disconnect between the king's ambitious global vision and the priorities of his own kingdom.